We believe that relationships should be built on trust. From where we see it, the difference between selling an idea and putting a message across is in discovering the truth behind a brand. We make it our job to tell the truth, not by building an image, but by focusing the light on the good that you do. Because in the end, it's not about us. It's about you. Tell us your story. We'll make sure everyone listens.
Welcome to Outsourced.
Outsourced is a leading offshore staffing provider located in the Philippines, providing dedicated remote staff of the highest standards. Outsourced has provided staffing services to some of the world's leading organisations and brands. Outsourced was created due to the lack of offshore staffing providers able to meet quality standards. From day one, the mission of Outsourced has been to deliver the highest quality staffing solutions. We invest more in the best recruiters, facilities, technology and equipment, and our large talented on-site support team ensures the operations are run efficiently and follow best practices. We only source the most talented individuals and rigorously test and qualify them before placement. The outsourced spacious open plan offices are supported by advanced network infrastructure, fast internet and follow best IT practices. All staff are provided spacious desks, comfortable chairs, the latest high-spec hardware and dual-screen monitors.
Outsourced delivers exceptional offshore staffing solutions.
Hi, I'm Christine and I'm a systems engineer.
Hi, I'm Jaja and I'm a senior technical consultant.
Hi, I'm Celestine and I'm a graphic designer.
Hi, I'm Julie and I am a front-end developer.
Hi, I'm Arian and I'm a QA tester.
Hi, I'm Mary and I'm a senior technical recruiter.
Outsourced recently won the Best Business Outsourcing Services Provider Award at the Golden Globe Annual Awards for Business Excellence. So why not let us assist your business by starting and growing your exceptional offshore team here in the Philippines with Outsourced.
We are friendly and approachable, so give us a call.
Good evening, everyone in the US. Good morning to those in the West Coast. Good afternoon, those in the West Coast, and good morning to our friends who are joining us from the Philippines and Australia. Welcome to our webinar tonight, Outsourcing Creative Work, Leveraging on Cultural Similarities between the Philippines and the US to deliver timely and useful content. This event is being organized by the various Philippine Trade Investment Centers, the Philippine Embassy, and the Consulates General of the Philippines across the United States. My name is Raymond Batak from Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C., and I'll be your moderator tonight. The webinar is the fourth installment of the Global Business Process Powered by the Philippines webinar series. From August 13 to October 1, top IT BPO executives will discuss about different types of outsourced services, such as virtual assistants, e-learning, creative content, engineering, design, software, and apps development. Today, we will introduce the topic of outsourcing creative work. We will be joined by three presenters, Mr. Mori Rodriguez, who is the Chief Innovation Officer of the Eon Group, Mr. Tony Layug, co-founder and CEO of KDCI Outsourcing, and Mr. Mike Larcher, founder and CEO of Outsourced. Our speakers will be discussing about these topics, which we hope will help our audience understand better what is outsourcing and offshoring and how it can benefit your business amidst the disruption in the business environment due to COVID-19. So as you see, the topics are here and they will be discussing most of these through the 1-hour webinar. And so we will be having our question and answer following the three presentations. So let's now go to our presentations. Our first speaker is Mr. Mori Rodriguez. He's the Chief Innovation Officer of the Eon Group. Mori is a strategist and an expert in digital and mobile with 15 years experience in cross-platform content creation and marketing. Prior to joining Eon, he served as AVP and head of ABS-CBN's Digital Innovation and Business Development team, where he pioneered a number of award-winning digital platforms. He is responsible for setting up Eon's digital marketing and analytics business. Let's welcome Mr. Mori Rodriguez. Mori, you have the floor.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen. Hello, everyone. My name is Mori Rodriguez. I am the Chief Innovation Officer of the Eon Group, the biggest Filipino independent communications consultancy firm with offices in Manila and in the United Arab Emirates. Eon has been leading the communications industry for well over 20 years with numerous local and international awards and recent global expansion to Dubai under our belt. Since our inception in 1998, we have continuously committed to delivering excellent work that builds trust for our clients and letting Filipino talent shine on the global stage. That's why it brings me joy to be here with you this morning to talk about the abundance of opportunities for your organizations when you tap into the unique mix of talents of Filipinos, coupled with a few examples of our creativity in action. But to start, and this is to premise the whole discussion today, what is it about the Philippines that makes it perfect for outsourcing creative work? We answered this question by talking about what has always made the country stand out, and it's the Filipino people. In Eon's commitment to building and growing the country brand, we found that our best and most unique selling proposition as a country is the Filipino. So we developed a framework that synthesizes the qualities that make the Philippines not just a great country for tourism, but as a valuable business partner across a broad range of sectors. This framework is called the 4 C's, which summarizes the most distinctive qualities of the Filipino people in a single expression that is easy to remember. The first of the 4 C's stands for colorful. Our culture is a melting pot of influences from all over the world, including the US. Our shared history, having spent 50 years under US rule, has exposed us to American music, films, and mindsets. This makes the Philippines more well-equipped than any other Asian country to develop creative content that resonates with American audiences. Second, Filipinos are collaborative. We're actually so collaborative that we've been commended many times on our enthusiasm for regional and global cooperation summits and initiatives. It's in our nature to think about the collective. One of our virtues is bayanihan, which refers to a spirit of communal unity. And on top of that, Filipinos are also proficient in American English, having been educated in schools using English as the medium of instruction. So just ask anyone who has Filipino colleagues. They will most likely say they're very easy to work with. Third, Filipinos are instinctively caring. Caring for others is innate in the Filipino culture, with malasakit or empathy being another important virtue. In Ion, we make sure to embody this culture of caring or malasakit in our client servicing. We take the time to understand the core of our clients' needs while producing work that resonates with their international target audience. Our empathy and care has made our firm instrumental in curating high-level delegate experiences in key global events such as the Asia Pacific Economic Conference, the Asian Development Bank Governors Meeting, and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations meetings. Finally, all these qualities and circumstances enable Filipinos to be more creative. International organizations have long recognized the craftsmanship and talent of Filipinos across industries, from traditional furniture and fashion design to marketing, animation, and content creation. Taken independently, these qualities can certainly represent many other nations, but collectively, they represent a unique fusion that is not only authentic to Filipino heritage and tradition, but also relevant in the way it helps today's investors and employers recognize and appreciate the merits of the Philippines' most precious resource, its people. The unique value of the Filipino is attested by organizations across numerous sectors around the world. A couple of years ago, Ian worked with the IT Business Process Outsourcing Association of the Philippines to conduct a brand audit on our IT BPM industry. We undertook various levels of research, including surveys and key informant interviews with investors across the globe. The respondents of our study were unanimous in their recognition of the Filipino spirit. Filipinos already have a reputation for being determined and placing a premium on customer service. Moreover, respondents have indicated that the resilience of the Filipino people is hinged on the IT BPM industry's ability to innovate and meet the demands of a global community that is rapidly evolving. Many have also noted that we are adaptable, saying that the talent of the Filipino people is what will drive technological evolution in our country. Ion's understanding of the uniquely Filipino qualities and our commitment to hone these skills in our people are what set us apart from our local and global competitors. From a small office of 5 people, we have grown to a 150-strong workforce that harnesses the best of what we have to offer to provide quality integrated communication solutions to our clients. And I'm proud to share that we've successfully delivered impactful, award-winning work to organizations across 23 sectors for local and international audiences alike. Armed with our colorful culture, creative minds, caring hearts, and collaborative spirit, we've designed beautiful print materials and developed engaging digital content for tourism boards, meticulously managed social pages of financial institutions, and curated memorable experience for audiences from around the globe. In the last few years alone, we have showcased our creativity at an international scale with 2 notable clients in the entertainment technology industry. The first is the music streaming platform Spotify, which Ian helped launch in the Philippines back in 2014. Using our strategy of tapping into Filipinos' inherent love for music, we helped the Philippines grow to become the 2nd fastest growing Spotify market worldwide, after just less than a year of digital campaign management. And in 2016, we were appointed to lead the creative initiatives of Spotify in markets across Asia Pacific, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Through our creative direction, these markets thrived not only with increased awareness and usage, but a newfound appreciation for their own local artists. Our work with Netflix is another example that showcases the best of the Filipino. The brand, which worked out of its Southeast Asian headquarters in Singapore, tasked Ion to build brand love and strengthen Filipinos' relationships with the platform. With limited digital real estate space and attention tugging against an almost unlimited number of titles to promote, our creative social strategy centered around real-time trend jacking, listening to requests, riding on trends, leveraging on iconic moments, and then using these as springboards for our team to develop creative content. One of our most successful examples of hyper-localization was the launch of Stranger Things 2, which coincided with Halloween. Our creative idea was to combine the nostalgia permeating Stranger Things with uniquely Filipino Halloween staples of yesteryears. The result was a stream of highly entertaining content, posters, gifs, and a spoof on a famous Filipino news show which garnered 3.2 million views. The campaign was targeted specifically for the Philippine market, but it earned attention from the headquarters in Los Angeles and was lauded as a global best practice. The final case I'm sharing with you today is a prime example of the efficiency and effectivity that can be achieved with collaboration across geographies. We opened our first international office in Dubai with a clear intention of highlighting Filipino ingenuity and creativity to our neighbors in the Middle East. Just a few months into our launch, we undertook a feat that would create an impact in a completely new market. We conducted a study that looks into the contribution of the Filipino community to the United Arab Emirates economy. Not only did we conduct the research itself by flying our team to key cities in the Emirates, our teams also in Manila and in the UAE worked together to ensure a successful launch experience for the UAE media members, influencers, and high-level officials. So to close this brief presentation, allow me to summarize the ways in which your company will benefit from outsourcing creative work to Filipinos. The most practical benefit is, of course, the efficiency of labor and operational costs. It's no doubt that the cost of living in the Philippines is much lower than in the US. So by outsourcing work to Filipino creators, companies can focus on key business deliverables. Another practical benefit is the fact of our geography. American businesses can extend their productivity hours by having a team continue operations in another time zone while this side of the world is resting. They also get to tap to the innate creativity of the Filipino talent, people whose rich history and diverse culture enable originality and innovation to thrive. Fourth, Filipinos are known to be driven, hardworking, and dedicated to delivering excellent customer service, allowing for minimal supervision. And finally, because Filipinos have a good command of the English language and are highly skilled and easily adaptable with new technology and processes, companies can conveniently and seamlessly interact with creative outsourcing teams in the Philippines. I hope this presentation shed light on the talents and capabilities of the Filipinos and Ion, of course, and open doors for creative collaboration. If you have questions or if you would like to know more about our services, feel free to send us an email or a message to our website at eon.com.ph. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Mori. Thanks for the presentation. So as you can see, everyone, you have two things that we have been really connected to for the past 6 months, which is Spotify and Netflix. A lot of us who have been home and have been watching a lot of these and using the streaming service. I think it's also been very good to as a start to highlight what the Filipino talents are and what we have to offer even to some of the largest companies, Spotify, which is I believe a Swedish brand, and Netflix, which as you know is a US brand. So I think it's a good start to our presentation. So now we'll turn to our next presenter. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Tony Layug. He's the co-founder and CEO of KDCI Outsourcing. Tony is a seasoned executive with over 20 years of experience in building businesses. His core competency is in creatives, and he started his career as a multimedia designer. He was the art director and was part of the founding team for eCost, which is a subsidiary of PC Mall, now known as PCM Inc. He then went on to serve as the vice president of advertising and creative sources for PCM for nearly 5 years. He started his first company, LWS Media, in 2007 and KDCI Outsourcing in 2011, where he currently serves as the CEO. Tony, you have the floor.
Awesome. Let me share my screen. Okay. All right. I think it's sharing. Hello, everyone. My name is Tony Layug. I am the CEO and co-founder of KDCI Outsourcing. Today, I'm going to be talking about engagement models as well as training and onboarding for outsourcing creative work. So a little bit about KDCI. KDCI is a digital outsourcing agency based in the Philippines. We're located in Ortigas Center. We've been around since 2011. And we specialize in design and marketing, e-commerce outsourcing, as well as offshore staffing in the Philippines. Our goal is to build the best teams for the best companies. We've been very lucky and privileged to work with a lot of great startups, as well as prominent brands. Some companies that we work for we've worked with are Apple, Amazon, to name a few, as well as Dell and Tiffany & Co. The next slide is engagement model. So we're going to dive straight into it. So the three types of engagement models when outsourcing are project work, monthly retainer, and full-time equivalent, or FTE. As you can see, the project work is really geared around startups. So startups are trying to establish their brand. They usually would, scope out the type of project with a company. And then this is usually an hourly rate. So if you need a website, you need something like a project that needs to get done really quickly, you usually go through the hourly rate. The monthly retainer is more for an established brand that actually has their foot in the sand. And, a good example of this is, let's say, a clinic. If you're a clinic, you have doctors, you have nurses, and you have an office staff. But the thing is, it doesn't make sense for you to really hire a graphic designer or a marketing specialist to run your marketing for you. And the monthly retainer really works really well for this, because what happens is you would outsource that task to a company like KDCI, and we could handle basically all the marketing collaterals, and you have a team that basically handles all that for you. And it's really a blended sort of hourly rate that you would work with. And the third would be a full-time equivalent, or FTE. And this is the most common sort of business model that most companies work with in the Philippines. And this is like having your own extension in the Philippines, your offshore team in the Philippines. So it's an extension of your company. And this is really geared for high volume production and quick turnaround. So users or, your team would be working in the Philippines with your team onshore. And the way this would work is it's an FTE rate where you would pay a monthly fee for that resource. So these are the most common sort of engagement models that most companies use when they outsource work to the Philippines. Now I'm going to talk about I have three case studies that sort of outline these models. And this one company is called Cybatar. They're a startup cybersecurity based in Irvine, California. And they basically came to us and said, Tony, we need help with designing our brand and our website. And instead of going to a freelancer or different resources to get the job done, they worked with us because we've got a team of designers, project managers that are experienced in developing brands and actually getting it done. So, the type of engagement model here was basically you scope out the work, you provide an hourly rate for the work, and then you knock it out in 2 to 3 months. The next model, this case study is around a retainer model. And this company, Betterment, is an online investment company based in New York. They've been around since 2008. And they've got an in-house team, and they're a great company. They basically have their own UI designers, UX designers, and app developers, and they're focused really on their product and services. And it only made sense for them to outsource a lot of their advertising production, such as graphics and banners. And that's where we came in. We basically helped them in managing their online presence by building their assets for them. And they pay a monthly fee or a retainer for about 30 to 40 hours worth of work. So it makes perfect sense. So they've got access to this solid team of digital folks that can help them manage it. The third case study that I have is what we would call an FTE model. And this is really, Nielsen is who I'm showing here. And Nielsen is basically a data analytics company. These guys have been around since the invention of television. And if you've watched the Super Bowl and you want to see, you know, what the ratings are, Nielsen's the company that does it. They've got about 40,000 employees globally, and they're a huge global brand. And we were fortunate to really help them in outsourcing their creative process. There are three things that they asked us to do. And the one thing that they were trying to do was, you know, unify their brand overall in production. And it was tough because they were working with multiple agencies to develop assets. And it was tough for their brand ambassador or marketing manager to really focus on, you know, developing their assets rather than becoming a what they call brand police, right? So Nielsen, you know, came to us and they said, Tony, we need help with, you know, a lot of presentations, and we've got, you know, offices in New York, in Brazil, all around the world, and we want to, you know, have a consistent brand when we actually work with these different companies. So what we did was we developed a process and hired a dedicated team for them to really build all the assets and ensure consistency overall. The biggest challenge that we had was quality. And you know, it was great because we got to solve that about 2 years ago. Our team developed an internal QA process where we process about 1,000 hours worth of production in terms of assets. And since this QA process has been in place, have had 0 errors externally. So the relationship with Nielsen has been great because as we continue to develop their brand and develop their assets, we continue to improve the overall production of the company. So this FTE model is a really great, you know, sort of fit for a company looking to outsource to the Philippines to find a really great partner that can understand what they're looking for and develop a better process and, you know, become an inherent partner. So the next section of this presentation is training and onboarding. Training and onboarding really only applies for the FTE model, and it's pretty standard. There's 3 things. There's recruitment, training, and production. And when you meet a company like Nielsen, you really have to understand what their goal is. And you start with the org chart. So what type of team are you looking for? And then you work with the job descriptions. And then you put together really good interviews to candidates, and you develop an IQ exam and a skill exam to really find the right fit. The next part of that is training. So understanding the brand compliance of the brand, and then applying best practices and training those users or those employees to understand the brand. And then it's also very important to work with the employees to handle client engagement, because that's one of the key things that you have to develop. And after that, the third thing is production. You know, production is assigning an account manager to work with the client on a day-to-day basis. But you know, one of the key things is having a key KPI or a scorecard to ensure quality assurance overall. And what we do is you really have to develop a culture with continued education. So you want to make sure that you're using the best tools and the best processes to improve not just your people, but the people of your client that you're working with. Okay, so types of companies that outsource creative work. In our experience, you know, we've worked with a lot of different industries, but you know, over here, I think I've got 12 industries that we worked with. Like I said, it's everything from startups to retailers to agencies. And if you know you're in this industry and you need some creative work, please reach out to me. Happy to help. And I think this is the last slide. Outsourcing during COVID-19. So the 3 points here are pretty straightforward. I think one of the things that you know, people ask me is how's everything going, and you know, since COVID-19, and I always tell them that, you know, it's a tough time right now, but there are some highlights and good things in spite of COVID. And one is, you know, the closeness with family. I think that's the first thing. The second thing is that, you know, it's good for Mother Earth because obviously less emissions. But the third, I think COVID has really opened the eyes for businesses and companies to look into outsourcing because of remote work. Now that companies are having their workforce work remotely from home, that's 7 miles down the street, they're more open to working with companies that are 7,000 miles away. And, you know, just like we're doing it now on Zoom, you know, working with a person in the Philippines is easier now, and companies are really accepting it. And that's it. So if you have any questions, here's my information. Please reach out to us. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Tony, for that presentation. And you know, I think it's very useful in seeing the three engagement models that are available to potential clients that you could get from a monthly to a retainer to even an FTE. So I guess hopefully it shows our participants that these companies, they don't just cater to the largest companies, but they're very flexible given the situation, given how their structure is, how they do their work. They are quite flexible. So now we're going to move on to our last presentation. Our third presenter is Mr. Mike Larcher. He's the founder and CEO of Outsourced. Mike is based in Sydney, Australia. He started his first company at the age of 21, which is a digital commerce agency called Acid Green, which was in 2000. In 2012, he founded Outsourced, which provides quality offshore staffing solutions in the Philippines. His companies have won multiple awards within their category, and Outsourced has grown to over 300 staff now in the Philippines. Let us all welcome Mr. Mike Larcher. Mike?
Thank you very much. I'll just share my screen. Thanks for the introduction. And as mentioned, my name is Mike Larcher, and I'm the founder and CEO of Outsourced, which is a offshore staffing company in the Philippines. I'll start off by giving a bit of an explanation about the difference between outsourcing and offshore staffing. And there's so many different words used in this industry, such as outstaffing, offshoring, staff leasing, outsourced staffing, remote staffing. It becomes very confusing. So outsourcing is when a third party is going to deliver the work for you. So the benefit of that is there's less work on your side and less ownership, and you're passing the responsibility to the third party. So the risk of that, the negative of that, can be it's at a higher cost because they're taking the risk and doing all the hard work. This can be a misalignment of clients and vendors, such as timelines and urgency and priorities and the quality of the candidate that's going to be working on the task. And you become reliant on the third party as well. So you're not building in-house knowledge, and you have the lack of control there. Whereas offshore staffing is where you get a dedicated offshore staff who's going to be dedicated working full-time for your team. And other words to describe that are outsourced staffing, staff leasing, remote staffing, outstaffing, and offshoring. So, and there's intricacies within each of those, but in general, they define a practice where a full-time staff member or sometimes a part-time staff member is dedicated to your business. So the benefit of that is lower cost, and you define the systems and processes that staff member will follow. So you're in full control. And I guess the risk with this is the amount of time and investment required. Okay, so it takes a bit more time, whereas with outsourcing, if you're in a hurry and it's not a long-term thing, it's just project-based and you don't have time, outsourcing is probably the better solution. But if you're looking to build a team offshore and you are prepared to give the time to invest in the staff, then it's going to save you time and you're going to have a lot more ownership and control. So at Outsourced, we specialize in 10 categories. But today, the focus is the creative and the engineering, which is relevant to this discussion. The creative services, these are just some examples that some of our clients have requested for their full-time staff. We have web designers, graphic designers, creative writers, photo editors, industrial designers, UX designers, design engineers, animators, etc. And one consideration when you're selecting a partner in the Philippines or offshore is what is the speciality of that organization? And you'll find a lot of organizations in the Philippines are doing more around admin and call center services. So it's best to use an organization like the two gentlemen before me or Outsourced, where there's a focus and a lot of experience in creative services. Engineering is another related service that could also be defined as very creative. We have AutoCAD, draftsmen, electrical engineers and civil engineers and architects, and so on. So there's so many different types of roles that can be done remotely, and essentially anything that can be done remotely outside of, obviously where you need to touch the person, such as a massage, but pretty much anything that can be done remotely, we can service in the Philippines. So why the Philippines, and why did I start off in the Philippines? I had tried other countries such as India and Ukraine for outsourcing prior to setting up in the Philippines. The thing I found the best with the Filipinos, obviously English is a strong point. They're one of the largest English-speaking countries in the world. And as mentioned by some of the other speakers, there's a proficiency in English, and it's spoken at schools and universities, and it's a requirement basically. So that's a benefit over other countries such as Vietnam. There's a Western culture. So the Spanish were there for hundreds of years, and then the Americans. So the culture of the Philippines is a Western culture. And so it's very familiar for anyone from England and Australia and the US when looking to offshore. The time zone can be used to the benefit as well. There's two parts to it. There's, if you want a night shift for your team in America, then they'd be working during the day in the Philippines. And if you want them to work your hours, that's fine as well, because in the Philippines, it's very common to work a night shift. Actually, some of the cafes don't open till 11 a.m. and sometimes you see people having after work drinks at 9 a.m. in the morning. It can be very strange, but there's a huge night culture there. And obviously, service oriented is the nature of Filipinos. So I've got a quick 2-minute video here just to take you through a little bit about how it works working with an organization like Outsourced.
No matter where in the world you are, we help companies like yours build their own full-time quality team in the Philippines. As a leading offshore staffing provider, Outsourced makes hiring staff offshore easy. Our goal is to create a scalable team that reduces your costs by as much as 75% compared to hiring locally. And it's all done in 4 simple steps. First, our recruitment consultants will work closely with you to understand your ideal candidate requirements. Next, we use our extensive candidate database and targeted outreach to find the most suitable and talented professionals in the Philippines. That includes testing and verifying all candidates before introducing them. Once you've selected your offshore team, they are 100% dedicated to you full-time from our state-of-the-art offices in the Philippines. We also offer dedicated full-time home-based remote staffing. With direct access and full control of your staff, they are an extension of your local team. Lastly, we take care of everything else within our ISO certified managed operations, including facilities, technology, HR, payroll, and support. Our offices are equipped with advanced network infrastructure, fast internet, and the latest technology. No matter the job function, we are dedicated to finding and securing the right staff that will stay with you long term. We provide a positive and rewarding culture with a focus on employee health and well-being, which correlates to improved staff retention and productivity. While we recruit for any job type, we specialize in IT, contact center, professional services, creative, admin, marketing, healthcare, finance, engineering, and education. Whatever your staffing needs, Outsourced is here to find you the best candidates in the Philippines that will exceed your expectations ongoing. So let us find the perfect candidates for you. For more information on Outsourced and how we can help you.
Great. So hopefully that gave a bit of an explanation about how offshore staffing works. So a company like ours, we provide state-of-the-art offices in the Philippines. So it's very different to hiring people in remote islands where maybe they're sharing some space with their family and maybe unreliable internet connections. So we provide these advanced facilities following ISO certified practices. We're both certified in quality systems and data security. We also give back to the community. So we've got a program called Pay It Forward, where we make sure that the staff and the company are contributing to society and making sure that look after orphanages and schools and so on to give back to Filipinos. As part of our service offering, we also have a very strong 40 staff support team with HR and IT, recruitment, operations, finance, legal. It's a full service essentially, so that you don't have to worry about any of those things. And we ensure staff retention as well, because you're going to be investing in these staff. We want them to stay with you for years. And we every month have team events. So this one's an example of where we took everyone for the weekend to the beach. There's obviously some limitations at the moment in our ability to have group gatherings. So a lot of our events are currently online. We've got the Biggest Loser happening, where there's rewards for health and fitness. We're doing seminars around mental health and making sure everyone's doing well at home, and bingo nights and these kind of things. So we're still ensuring we're looking after the staff and making them feel special. In our premium facilities, we provide everything the staff will need to make sure that it's worth going to the office. And we provide advanced technology, which is an advantage over, for example, in the future, maybe having some staff at home. If you've got business critical services, then we've got 24/7 and failover internet provision. The video took through how it works, but essentially providing a job description, we do the recruitment, and the staff then report to you daily, and we take care of all the operations. So there's two options, I guess. You've got office-based and home-based, and we provide both. There are some restrictions at the moment that have been eased, so the staff can come in, but there's some restrictions around how many can be in the office, and we also need to take care of staff health. So, but full-time office-based is it's better for larger teams, people who have business-critical functions as a requirement, where you really need team collaboration and on-site support and improved data security. So we have some clients who, working with confidential health records and so on. And this is just a quick diagram to show, our service includes the recruitment, the facilities, the operations, and the IT. And then we have a transparent pricing model which shows the staff salary and essentially just paying for our service to make sure that they're there for you every day. With the home-based, there are some advantages to this. It actually opens up to staff that aren't necessarily close to the offices, and staff who prefer to work at home. There's a lot of that happening at the moment, obviously. There's employee satisfaction, so work-life balance. It's lower cost because you're not paying for the facilities, and there's benefits to the environment as well, and long-term disaster recovery. And we step in and assist by providing upgraded internet and spare computers if something happens, and the IT support and all the HR and everything. So it's still an upgraded service instead of just having someone at home working directly with you. We've had the pleasure of working with some really large organizations. We also work with some startups and the smaller business, but we've worked with likes of Yamaha and 2XU and Fox Sports and Genesis. So very lucky to work with some great clients. And we've got some testimonials, which I won't bore you with, but just to make you realize that we do a good job. I just wanted to take you quickly through a case study, which is for one of our clients, which is a digital commerce agency, where the staff were graphic designers and web developers and testers. And it's relevant to COVID, where this client is an Australian-based retailer who was greatly affected during the fires in Australia, because no one wants to buy plants during a fire and drought, and then got hit by COVID. But they were able to pivot quickly with their team in the Philippines and convert their brochure site into an e-commerce store that enabled online ordering and home delivery and click and collect. And their revenues have skyrocketed, and they're actually really booming during this phase. There's actually a lot of people doing DIY at home. They're stuck at home, so there's a huge interest in making people's gardens and homes look better. So this is a great example of how one of our clients was able to pivot and quadruple their revenues online with the help of their Filipino team. So one of my last slides here is on the impact of COVID-19 on outsourcing and offshore staffing. So I guess the negatives of it were there was a bit of a knee-jerk firing reaction when COVID started. I think everyone, this is an unknown. It's a scary thing and people didn't know what to do. So I think there was a lot of people just desperate to cut costs, thinking of the worst possible outcome. And then definitely in specific industries, obviously tourism and hospitality got hit very hard. So any of our clients that were in those categories found it very difficult to survive, of course. Now some positives that have happened as a company, we've pivoted to offer home base. So when the lockdowns happened, we moved over 300 staff from office to home within 3 days. That's how much warning we got from the government. So it was actually testament to our business continuity and the ISO quality standards and processes that we've put in place. And it's actually shown us a great business model that where the new normal is now remote work, and actually it's working really well. So I think it's been a surprise to everyone that there are certain job functions that can easily be done by home, and there are others that will actually work better in an office. So we're focusing really on those job roles where they can easily be done at home during this pandemic. And I think around the world, there's a huge growth now and appreciation of offshore staffing. So people are realizing if the staff are down the road and home in Sydney or in New York or in LA, and they're not in the office, why don't I save 75% and have that person at home in the Philippines? So it's actually contributing to this growth of offshore staffing, which is really exciting for the industry. Thanks a lot for your time. And I've put some details here how to contact me if you had any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. So those are our three presenters, and I really encourage everyone to send questions through our chat box. But Mike, since you're the last one, and I guess I have the advantage of asking a question. A couple of weeks ago, we had a session on virtual assistants. What is the difference of a virtual assistant versus what your company is offering? Maybe you could explain to us.
Yeah, good question. So a virtual assistant generally, you would say, isn't a business critical function. So that's one of the examples where they can actually work at home quite well. And a lot of our clients who have a virtual assistant, that will be their only staff member. And sometimes they only want them part-time, and it's just to help them with calendar booking and so on. So whereas when we look at creative staff and technical staff and engineering staff, often they're business critical functions. And by that, I mean, they're committed to projects. The clients are committed to projects and they're charging them out at hundreds of dollars per hour. So their inability to work for whatever reason, may influence the outcome of the delivery of their local clients that they're trying to service. So that's where a company like Outsourced comes in handy, because we're providing all the HR and the high recruitment levels and the processes and ISO qualifications. So we're ensuring that these business critical functions are going to be a success. And yeah, the creative staff will be working on tasks that literally we have clients charging out. They're paying us, $20 an hour for a staff member that they're charging out at $200 an hour. So there's a huge margin to be made when you get high quality staff in the Philippines. And I think the wrong thing to do is say, I'm going to the Philippines, so let's get the cheapest staff. Right. You wouldn't do that locally. You wouldn't think, oh, I want to save money, so I'm going to get the cheapest person. You say, I want to get the best person. So there's an opportunity with international funds to get the best people. We have clients, we can poach people from large organizations like Deloitte and the biggest guns out there, and offer them these great salaries and keep them for the long term, provide these creative services to clients.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Well, I have some questions that I've received also through the chat box. This one I'll address to Tony. There was a question, Tony, about how long is your FTE turnover in your firm? That's question one. Then a follow up to that is for Nielsen, how many FTEs did they hire from you per project? If you could share some of your insights on those two questions.
That's a good question. So the FTE turnover is really contingent on the success of an account. I think when you properly hire the right people for the right job, which we've been very good at, we've had people since we started the company, 9 years ago, right? So attrition rate's very, very low. And the next thing, and we're not a big center or agency. LWS was 1,000 employees, and it was really tough. And after that lesson, it made me appreciate, to be in the position to really pick the clients. And when you pick the clients, you want to make sure it's the client that actually cares about your people. Because if you don't do that, and you find a client and you know that they're going to go and say, I want someone for 6 months and then that's it, I tend to say no. So you want to find a client that has an established future that you can grow with. So to that question, we have a really, really low turnover rate in terms of FTE. Like I said, we've had people for 8 years. People that right now I think is 4 to 5 years is the average. We usually lose people because they immigrate, right? So they decide to immigrate abroad, and that's usually the competition. And the second question was how many FTEs on Nielsen?
Yes.
I think we're at about 30 right now. So we've got 30 FTEs, designers, and so it's basically you've got illustrators, graphic designers, presentation designers, you have QAs, an art director, or project manager, give or take. And you've got a staff supporting that role as well. So like I said, they're a global brand, 40,000 employees, 1,000 hours of production. It's pretty incredible.
Thanks, Tony.
Yep.
Mori, one thing that I also wanted to ask you, did you see an uptick of clients when COVID came down upon globally? Did you get more outsourcing work from the US in particular?
Well, for Eon, we do have a couple of retainer clients that have already signed up with us many months ago. The bad thing about COVID was, a lot of the parts of the scope of work, it also included events. And of course, that had to be canceled. And so, the challenge was how do we convert some of that scope into work that we can actually do remotely. And so, then we started talking about the research and substantives and also creative work. But in the past few months, yes, there has been an uptick in companies reaching out to Eon specifically for social media management, because they also saw that there was a surge in e-commerce, and hence digital marketing had to be a focus for their work. But they did not have the operations or the scale to do it. So they reached out to Eon, and now we're working together with them in coming up with content to satisfy their business targets.
All right. Thank you. Okay, there's this question which is addressed to everyone. What kind of work do home-based workers do in your company, and how do you ensure data security with your home-based worker? So maybe Mike, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks. So all of our staff are at home at the moment. So I could say across all our categories, we have accountants and bookkeepers and IT support. We have contact center agents, web designers, graphic designers, engineers, architects, everything. So there's no limit really. As long as they have a computer and an internet connection, they can do the work, all the tasks that I've mentioned. In terms of data security, it can be a challenge, of course, because they're outside of an office. There could be people walking behind them, but that's going to be the same anywhere in the world at the moment. If you're in America, you've got family members, or there could be strangers or neighbors, or standing behind someone's desk. So it's almost not impossible, but it's extremely hard to avoid that situation. But From an IT perspective, we can do things like VPN connections, and we're doing virus protection on the tools, and education around best practices. We can remove some devices on not allow USB on the computers provided. There's so many things that we can do to assist to ensure security. But I think anywhere in the world, there's certainly some challenges at the moment.
Right. I don't know if Tony and Mori wanted to weigh in on this question as well.
I've got an AI guy named Francis. He's like like Jarvis from Iron Man, and every time there's a problem, he fixes it. But no, all kidding aside, I think it's the same thing with Mike. You put your best practice forward in IT security. We provide laptops, and we provide laptops and antivirus, and we ensure that everyone follows protocol. A lot of the stuff that they work is on the cloud. I mean, most of the time they're using Google Cloud and what have you. So from a security standpoint, knock on wood, we haven't had any issues.
Thank you. Mori, did you want to say something as well?
Yeah, same thing with us. Everything's on the cloud right now. We haven't had any issues and any data breaches so far, but our IT guy is really just very well connected to everyone. So if there's a problem, everyone in Eon reaches out to him. We just have like I think 2 to 3 people in the MIS IT department. So,
okay, thank you. Mike, there's a question for you. So, does the fact that engineering standards, ASTM, etc., in the Philippines follow those in the US play a role in getting US companies to consider outsourcing engineering service in the Philippines?
No, I think, and the same applies not just in engineering, but healthcare and other services that we provide, including accounting, that the staff in the Philippines are generally trained and have previously worked for US or Australian or UK companies. So offshoring and outsourcing is one of the largest categories for employment in the Philippines. So there's so many Filipinos who are actually more familiar with American standards or Australian standards or UK standards that when we're employing people, we'll be looking at their resume to make sure that they have experience in whatever it is that you require. Otherwise, we can train them. So in the same way that you would if you were hiring someone locally. But there hasn't been issues in terms of finding. There's 100 million people in the Philippines. There's been no issues finding people that are already skilled and trained in these kind of things.
Okay, thanks for that, Mike. A question to Tony. What is the turnaround time for an engagement similar to Betterment? Web design, logo, video clip, etc.
There's actually, I've got a chart that actually has that. So it's everything from presentation to web banner graphics. It's pretty standard, depending on the scope. But if you think about assets, if you're starting something new, right, it could take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks for a new website with branding. And that allows you to develop templates, because once you have a template for a web banner, for a video, for any assets, for an email, you can get it done in 2 hours. So, just like anything, you want to first build a strategy, the brand, the guidelines, the topography, the elements. Once you have that, the color schemes, any graphic designer can knock it out in 30 minutes to 1 hour.
Oh, thanks for it. Okay, here's a question again to all our research persons. Are you able to work with clients on specific jobs needs, i.e. social media marketing, Google Ads, etc., without having to hire someone full time? I think Tony kind of went into this, but maybe you could explain it again, and for the others as well, you're welcome to chime in on this question.
Okay, so I guess I'll take a stab at that question. I think it's really contingent on, in our company, we are, I'd say a digital outsourcing company. So we've got developers, designers, marketing specialists, as well as data specialists that actually can service, any t-shirt size client, right? But there's the other side of the business where it's offshore staffing, where it's a direct FTE, kind of like what Mike is doing, where you would hire a full-time staff to work for you in the Philippines. So that question, if you think about it, if one of our clients right now, because we really specialize in e-commerce, and one of the biggest challenges is Shopify is blowing up. It's been blowing up for the past 2 years. And companies are saying, you know, I'm jumping from this platform to Shopify because it's easier, it's faster, and it just makes more sense, but I've got to import all this data. So a lot of things that we do with a lot of e-commerce companies is helping them with that migration from their old website to the new website. So it's data normalization, graphics, content, categorization, taxonomy, and that's a project on its own. So we look at our current bandwidth of projects and we say, yeah, you know what, we can take that on board. But and that's sort of a great ask because the biggest challenge with companies is they come to a company like KDCI or Eon, and they try to understand what your capabilities are. And I think we're lucky where we focus on digital outsourcing. So it's easier for companies that are brick and mortar to transition to digital. And if you have that team to work on that specific task, it's easier.
Okay, thanks, Tony. And anyone else want to give a response?
For Eon specifically, most of our guys are regular employees, and they service one or more clients simultaneously. But there are specific clients like Netflix or Spotify who would really want a dedicated team. So we really hire a very specific set of people or talent in servicing out that particular client, and they don't service any other brand or company.
Yeah, with Outsourced, we only do full-time staffing, so project-based work wouldn't be something that we would take on. That'd be something where you'd work with Mori or Anthony. But yeah, we kind of look for clients who want to get 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 staff, over the years.
Okay, thank you. Well, there's a question here which I think it might be a bit challenging to answer, but there's a question here. How would you differentiate your company with other creative outsourcing companies? It's a bit of a, I guess what is your USP, so to speak? Is it the Filipino people? Is it really the quick turnaround of your service? What is it really? Because I think most of our participants, this is a very new thing to most of our participants. Actually, our webinar series has been quite, surprising to a lot of people because, as you know, when you think of outsourcing, the first thing that comes to mind is call centers, customer service. I have an issue with my credit card, etc. So, I guess what we're trying to do is, we have a lot of small, medium companies, or maybe even, single proprietor, people here who want to start a business, or they don't know what help they need. So maybe you could tell us more, or at least tell our participants, what really can you help them with, especially going to small scale businesses. I think, is that really what we're trying to target in this series of webinars?
I can jump in. There's two parts to that, I guess. There's one part which is what makes Outsourced unique, and there's one part that makes the Philippines unique. And I won't go on about Outsourced. I'll prefer to focus on the Philippines and say that it's obviously the biggest reason that people look to offshore. I'm not gonna lie about it. It's quite obvious, is because there's a cost saving. So if you look at the cost of salary in the US and compare it to the Philippines, you're going to save something like 70%. So there's a cost saving there. Now, you don't have to use cost saving with quality. The quality is still going to be there, and you can actually improve your quality by, instead of having someone who can only work for you part-time, you can have someone work for you full-time, because you can actually provide a better service. Or instead of hiring 1 staff, you can hire 2 or 3 staff. So then think what you could do with your business. Instead of having 1 staff member who's constantly stressed, and when they're sick or on holidays, you can't even service your clients. Imagine having 3 staff for the same price and be able to deliver more work and provide a better service to your clients. So I think that's a unique selling point of somewhere like the Philippines.
Thank you, Mike. Do Mori or Anthony or Tony wanna add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mori. I'll let you go.
Go ahead, Tony. After you.
Great, thank you. So I think one of the advantages with KDCI is, our pursuit for quality. We realize that, in trying to, cheaper, faster, better is always great, but actually achieving that brand compliance and executing the work is key. And the thing is, you really have to think about the brand and the customer of that client. And if you really go above and beyond to put that first, that sets the difference. And it's easy to find great talent when you have the great clients. So when people say, learn that they're working for a company like, Amazon or Apple and what have you, it's easy for you to really work with a team that really sets it apart. So it's easy to bring on really great people in that regard. And I think when you have great people, you get a great service and a great product. So I think KDCI overall, we've been very lucky and fortunate. Like I'd say most of our business are referrals. And, because of that, it's the level of quality of the team. And I'm very fortunate to really work with this level of people.
Thank you. Thanks. Mori?
I think in the age of automation, creative output or creative work has become a commodity. So the challenge for consultancies like ourselves is really to differentiate the kind of work that we do. And in Eon specifically, it's really the union of both technology and talent, because when we create all of these different pieces for Netflix or Spotify or any other brand or company, it really is rooted from a lot of research and a lot of data mining. We use a lot of like social listening tools to be able to give us, a pulse on what's trending in terms of, popular consciousness, so that when we come up with creative work, it's creative work that resonates with the target audience of those particular clients. So it's not just coming out of thin air. So that we stay true to our DNA of being a communications consultancy. We really do data first and then creative output second.
I'll just jump in. Thank you. Sorry. In the creative industry, there's this speed, price, and quality, and there's these three levers that you pull one and it pushes the other back. If you try to do something faster, the quality goes down. If you try to do something cheaper, it's going to affect all the other levers. So essentially, by taking out the price concern and allowing a graphic designer more time because their salary is not as expensive, you can actually increase the quality of the delivery.
Thank you. Okay, we have one last question that came in because we're also about at 8 o'clock here. This is addressed to Mike. Do you have accounting services? And if so, do you have staff that are QuickBooks Pro advisor? That's the question.
Yes, we do accounting services, and we do have some QuickBooks. We have most of the major accounting software. But how it works is you give us a job description, and then we go recruit someone specifically for your role. We headhunt by our recruitment team, find someone, you are involved in the interview process, and they're selected specifically for your team. So us having it on our current staff shows that we can do it, but it wouldn't be the person that would be assigned to you. We'll find someone and go through an interview process, and they'll be dedicated to you.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So, we had a very good session. I hope we were able to answer all your questions. As you can see, our three presenters, they really, shown their abilities, what they have to offer. So, I hope you guys, our participants were able to learn a lot in this webinar. You see all their details here, take a screenshot, or we also put their details down on the chat box. So please don't hesitate to reach out to them or reach out to us, the Philippine Trade Investment Centers in the US, or the Consulates General, even the embassy, and we can connect you with them. So I think we're about to end, but just one last note. So we're going to have our next webinar, which will be on September 10, and it's really on setting up your call centers overseas. So for those who are here, we encourage you to sign up for next week, or please inform your colleagues, your friends who may want to be to be part of this webinar for next week. So again, I'd like to thank our three presenters. Thank you for taking time. Thank you for all your your presentations and helping our our participants here learn more about the Philippines and what it has to offer through your company. So to everyone else, have a good evening and have a good morning to the rest. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. Okay.
That was an awesome session.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
We still have attendees.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay, so
Andrea, can you ask our panelists